Without much ado, I would like to introduce our second presenter, and she is none other than my inspiration and teacher of the teachers, a lady from whom I have learned a lot within no period of time. With us today, we have Ma'am Jenny Lawis. Ma'am Jenny Lawis is Global School and System Leader. She is learning specialist and she has been teaching us at this forum for quite long. This is the fourth time Ma'am Jenny is sparing time for us and she is at this platform. Ma'am Jenny has reformed and transformed millions of lives in her own this professional career. And I'm so glad and so honored to see that she is my teacher as well. Thank you very much, Ma'am Jenny. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I've just enjoyed really the session we've just had, and I'm looking forward to discussing and talking with everybody along the way. I'm not quite sure if I can share at the moment. And I just looking, I could a minute ago, and I don't think I've got that capacity now. It's saying one participant can share at the moment, and I just need.
Ma'am, you are the co-host now.
Yeah. So I can share my screen.
Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm. It's not letting me.
Oh.
You can't see my screen, can you, the PowerPoint?
I can't. Can you please try now? I have allowed all the participants to share the screen.
Okay. Always interesting when that happens. I'm not getting that. It's still saying one participant can share at a time.
My screen sharing is already stopped. I'm not sharing it now.
Okay.
Let me see if I can fix it in one way or the other way.
Okay, let me see. I can now.
Oh, thank God. These technical glitches are very much a part of this virtual world.
Yes, yes. So can you see my PowerPoint now?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Brilliant. So hello to everybody, and so delighted to be meeting with many of you. It's going to look like we've aligned sessions actually, because the summaries and the interesting things that you talked about a moment ago, I'm actually going to pick up in a very, very different way. I'm not going full screen here because I want to navigate between the internet and the slides, and just to demonstrate some things to you. So it is about creating a flourishing culture for professional development. And I'd like to share with you two international studies. These studies are from Australia and what's emerging in Indonesia at the moment. And so I'm hoping these learnings are of some interest to you. So when we think about doing professional learning for educators, and what I mean by educators is ourselves, our teachers, school leaders, those that are teaching in university, teacher trainers, as I could hear was being discussed a minute ago. It's all those things. But when we think about that professional development, the actual compelling question is, why am I actually doing this professional learning? And the answer should always come back to, it's because my children or some of my students need to learn more in this particular area and I don't know how. Or it could be about my professional growth plan based on the national professional standards, and I'm going to talk a bit about those. Or it's something that I'm exploring to further my career. So if we recognise for balancing at 2030, which is the OECD work. All the things we now have to consider for students learning. So the things around in continuing to improve literacy and language and numeracy, but also starting to look at those 2030 skills that you've been discussing today. How do we build agency in students, teachers, and other people that we're supporting? How do we share 2030 transnational competencies and those sorts of new things that we need to think about in terms of working with children in classrooms? It puts a different lens on what we've actually got to be thinking about in terms of our own professional learning. So if you haven't seen this work, Learning for 2030 from OECD, have a look at a number of pieces of work that are being shared by OECD with over 200 countries. 200 countries are exploring the professional development that's needed to actually teach students of the future and the capabilities that teachers will need. When I started to think about what we'd be talking about today, I did go to the OECD education GPS and actually just hit on teachers to see what it would say. And so when I looked at that, and so I'm just going dynamic for a moment, I started to think about, okay, when I'm talking about the growth and development teachers, I need to be thinking about their work conditions to be able to do some of this learning in. I need to be thinking about the design of professional learning. I need to be thinking about the learning environments I would love for them to be developing. I'm thinking about the practices that I need to enhance, not only myself, but to share and grow in others, and about the leadership capabilities that need to be considered in that. So if I go straight to the professional development web, so just instead of going from teacher, thinking about teaching professional development, it puts a new lens on it because I'm starting to think about the practices. And I'm also starting to think about the journey of those that have come through initial teacher education to where they are now. So anything that we're thinking about the growth of development for teachers locally and nationally, we also need to be actually telling initial teacher education trainers that this is the growth journey for all teachers in our state, our region, our country. But it's also where I get a shared global definition. So professional development is also called professional learning, is called professional best practices. It's called a number of things. So if you go a little bit further down on the compass, it gives quite a good description of what professional development is, and then key insights, current insights from OECD about professional development. So it's a helpful little compass to look at. And what we're going to look at today is also some of the professional practices. And then you see it opens a brand new web. So we can look at what we need in terms of student engagement and motivation. Again, it points back to teachers' professional development and the learning environments we need to consider. But if we're starting to look at what professional development looks like in terms of improving practices for teachers, then again, we can come down and look at the key insights in those areas. So to get it shared international language, because I know that we are looking at an international community here that Hina has got together. I've gone to this sort of shared language to make sure it's not Australian-centric. So coming back and looking at what Pakistan is doing in this particular area, because I'm going to talk about the Australian professional standards and how the Australian government, the states or provinces, principals and teachers are working with the professional standards for teachers. So these are the 10 professional standards in Pakistan. And I'm going to explore assessment as one of the examples, because I can use an Australian example, because we exactly have a number of these professional practices. And look at how it's unpacked as a national strategy, a state strategy, a school strategy, a learner strategy for the teacher, and a leadership strategy, so that we're building this shared knowledge, this shared capability, and a shared way of how we do things around here in terms of professional development. So what I'm going to introduce you to is, and I think in previous sessions, we have visited the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership. That's our national institute who is in charge of ensuring there are great professional learnings against our STEP professional standards. So in Australia, when we talk about professional development, and if I was a teacher in a classroom, I would be being asked, what standards am I looking at the moment, and where do I need my growth and development? So that's where I'm going to bring you back to this, because although there is ad hoc professional development in schools in Australia, for many, to get through the professional development they need to, against our 7 standards, know students and how they learn, know the content and how to teach it, plan and implement effective teaching and learning strategies, create and maintain supportive and safe learning environments, assess, provide feedback and reporting to students, engage in professional learning, which we're doing now, and engaging professionally with colleagues and parents and caregivers, which we're doing now. So if I was attending this course in Australia as a teacher, I could get accredited professional learning hours for doing this course with Hang Up Here, because I'm engaging in professional learning, but at a particular level, which I'll talk about in a moment, and I'm collaborating with colleagues, which has been illustrated throughout this process. But what does that look like, and how did we start? And when I look at the journey of Pakistan and your professional standards, it's very, very similar. So I just wanted to share the correlation of the two and the areas that we're working on, where we're having problems, and I'll share where we're going, and what Indonesia is exploring at the moment to build this flourishing culture of professional development that is nationally supported and locally and individually engaged in. So as you can see, some of our professional standards are very similar. And in fact, the Pakistan professional standards were established 2 years before Australia's were. So we're probably in a lot of catch up. I just wanted to see share with you how we're using the professional standards to create a flourishing culture of professional development. To begin with, it's centred in a national narrative. So the theory of professional development improvement by our Australian government was created after the professional standards were finalised. There was built a national statement about successful learners in Australia, our students, and how teachers and school leaders, parents and community will ensure the goals of every student. So we have explicit goals for what every student in Australia should know and be able to do at a broad level. It's a powerful statement. It's high level. It's not punitive. It's just this flourishing statement that dreams about these student learners and their growth and development to be global citizens from the journey they go on in our schools. You can find that in our Alice Springs Declaration. It gets revisited every 2 years. When you get the slides, you'll see the links to this. So here's our narrative. We have a very strong narrative around what our teachers need to be doing to ensure every student in our classroom is a global citizen, is able to engage in learning and go on to have great lives and be contributors to society. To achieve that, the country, each state and province, every school and every teacher and school leader commits to high quality teaching and school leadership. And so there's different versions of how that looks in each of our states and provinces. It's supported by an Australian teacher performance and development framework, and I'm going to visit each of these, and a very clear Australian charter for professional learning for teachers and school leaders. So how professional learning, professional development should be facilitated, designed in our schools. There's a very clear menu recipe for that, so that every learning experience should be a quality learning experience, and not always, but should be. There's a clear design so that teachers and school leaders can progress through a career in teaching and leadership and be recognised for the amazing work they do in their schools. Because the Australian Professional Standards for Teaching and the Australian Professional Standards for Principals have provided a strong framework of what every teacher and leader should be able to know and do. So that's great in words as a high-level model. But we knew in practice that it needed to be broken down into very clear steps. So how did we get that very clear language in our Australian schools? Back in 2009 and 10, whilst Pakistan would have been having the same conversation, we were talking about, as a profession, so that was the principals' councils and teachers' councils, teachers, school leaders in their schools, deans of education, unions, government agencies were discussing what does an Australian teacher look like and what should they be able to know and do. And the same conversation happened afterwards about what is an Australian school principal and what should they know and be able to do. So we knew, because we're a big country in geography, we're a small country compared to Pakistan in terms of population. We only have 25 million of counting all of our population. Our geography is as big as the United States of America. So how are we going to make sure that every teacher had the access to the same professional development and the same opportunities for career paths and the same opportunities to be high quality teachers and to be able to access great leaders to support them? How are we going to make sure that this happened? So this is why when you go through the Yatesville model, you'll see this. The profession put this together because it's one thing to know the professional standards and to have them there at words, but if they're not living and if we can't go down into them and build a shared knowledge of what they are, then they just become words on paper. And what's interpreted in a city in Pakistan or in Saudi or in Mexico or in Kenya and Nigeria, wherever you are, will be interpreted in different ways. So when we saw the mindset definitions, people had different ideas about what a mindset is. It's the same thing that if we were to ask a question, and I'm going to go to our 5th standard so we can be focusing on something that you can come back to and work on. And if the standard said provides timely, effective and appropriate feedback to students about their achievement relative to their learning goals, people would see that differently and it would be interpreted differently. And a principal with good heart in one school may be asking a teacher to demonstrate different things to a teacher in another school. So what happened was, and that was broken down into growth levels. So that one standard is broken down into the career of a teacher. So at graduate level, you were still at university. So teachers in initial teacher education actually are already working on the teacher standards. So when they come into classrooms for the first time, they know the professional standards of the country, have been working in them to demonstrate what they know and be able to do, and are proving that they are class ready. So they will have already had some experience at university, teacher training, on what it is to demonstrate understanding of the purpose and providing timely and appropriate feedback to students. Proficient level for us is that after you have been teaching a minimum of 2 years, you can go for a formative assessment where it is assessed that you are a quality teacher. You have been teaching in an Australian school for 2 years and you know what you're doing. So you will get your certification to be a proficient teacher. In Australia, that's as far as you have to go. You can continue to complete the professional learning at the level of proficient, and I'm going to show what that looks like. If you would like to show that you are a very good teacher and actually starting to supervise other teachers or lead other teachers, you can work at these levels, but you're not required to, but you can go through that and get certification and be recognised for that. Every teacher in Australia has to be at that minimum level of proficient. So I'm going to take you in to look at some proficient examples of what we expect at this standard for a proficient teacher. So you see now, I've come in at proficient, and these are the different things that a teacher will need to demonstrate and know and be able to do at that level, at proficient, and continue to demonstrate that. So are they good at providing feedback to students? And what does that look like in a number of demonstrations? Can they not program robots? It's looking at how they work with other teachers. And this is the example that we're going to use. And so we've got different illustrations of practice to look at how they provide timely, over here in the proficient square, provide timely, effective and appropriate feedback to students about their achievement relative to their learning. As you can see, for graduate, they had to demonstrate an understanding. And if you working at highly accomplished, you'll be working at select from an effective range of strategies. But we're working at proficient, and to show different ways of working at that level, what Eitzel and the profession did was to provide different sorts of examples that help teachers understand what this standard and its indicators look like. So if I go into this one, providing feedback, there's an illustration of practice. So if I don't know how to do that, no matter where you are in Australia, you've got one example of a video of a teacher giving a student feedback. I've got as an example of context and use, a description of where it's happening. And I've got some good discussion questions, because if we were looking at this particular area in our school, the school leader could use it as a facilitated professional development activity, or as an individual, if I'm improving my practice in this area, I can go in and work on these myself. And then down below, you'll see some resources. And what we've also got is what's called an offline package. So it's everything that I'm working on online, but if there's low bandwidth in the area that I am in, I can download it to an offline package. So I can go in and do a number of things in that area and practice working on different parts of that particular professional standard, which is assessing, providing feedback and reporting on student learning. And you can see there's a number of things to work on there. So that way we had a shared understanding of not only the standard, what you have to do to show that you can work at that standards, and some good examples so that no matter where we're in Australia, whether you are in a one-teacher school or a school that's got 300 teachers and nobody's looking after your professional development, you've got a whole pile of resources. So that's what that example focuses on there. And I'll come back and talk to you about that in a moment. So you can see that it's developmental. It goes from easier to harder at that level. So you can explore it's strength-based and you can continue to improve on your teaching or work on that with others. But there's a shared knowledge of what that means. Also on the AITSL website, and you'll be able to go in and download all of these, is a number of resources, because we also found that if you're in a poor school that's under-resourced, or if you're a teacher that doesn't have great professional development support in your school, where can you go to? So you'll find all these resources there. Now, although the government owns this, the profession has done this. So the profession continues to look at all the things that we need in terms of resources. And each year, AITSL curates with the profession, teachers, school leaders, university lecturers, teacher trainers, all that's a new lot of resources that schools across Australia can use. So we've seen villages work on this. We've seen schools work on this and share resources back to AITSL to load if their quality is short. So that's the same path that Indonesia's working on. At the moment, they're developing their professional standards, and they've got 13 for teachers. They're building out what that looks like as a continuum. So there's this shared language in Jakarta, Bali, or in the most remote village up in Agung or up in Lombok. So everybody can access the same resources online and offline, and the support materials. But coming back to this, we said, okay, it's important that we have a good professional learning design for this. It's really important that we know that any designing that's going on in the districts, the states, the schools is worthwhile, has impact, and moves teachers forward. So what you'll also find in the links is the Australian Charter for the Professional Learning of Teachers and School Leaders. We say learning instead of development. It's called the Charter. And it's a booklet that shows the research that was done back in 2014, so it does need an update, about what good professional learning looks like in our schools and how a learning design should be shaped. It affirms that effective learning should be always relevant to the students and the teachers' learning needs, that it's done collaboratively, so that you're not isolated and by yourself. So by AITSL designing that website, I could be talking with Hina about that standard I was just showing you. She could be looking at it in Pakistan. I can be looking at it in Australia, and we're problem solving professional practice together. So that's how we, it would work. And future focused. It's about making sure that we've got active professional learning moving forward. Just checking in if there are any questions I need to answer at this stage, or shall I keep going?
There are no questions, ma'am. All is pretty clear, so we can move on.
Okay. So this was interesting because it came up in the previous session at the end. There's no point on working on a professional growth plan if you haven't got a surety of support and a developmental culture that you're working in. So again, at an Australian level for the first 5 years of the professional standards, this was a mandatory component for each state and province. Indonesia is working on exactly the same thing now, so that there was certainty that there was investment in teachers' professional development. And so it really made clear when we're talking about professional development, what are we talking about? Well, it's reflective, and there should be goal setting. It should refer to the professional, about professional practices. There should always be about a professional problem or a professional area the teacher wants to improve in. And there should be always feedback and review. Teachers should know, are they going okay, and where they need to go next in their professional learning, as should there be for leaders. Everything we do in this should be focused on student outcomes. Where can I continue to improve my leadership and teaching practices? It should be, but there should be a clear understanding of what effective teaching is. And we discovered, and it's still an area that we're working on, that we haven't got shared understanding of what effective teaching is here in Australia. And so we've reported that to the partnership we have with the Indonesian ministry. And we're talking about that straight up front with Indonesia right at the very beginning, because it was a conversation we should have had at the very beginning, and we're just getting back to it now. But any design of performance and development should be flexible, make sense, coherent, and involve leadership. Leaders should be, as part of their role, committed to the growth and development of every teacher and school leader in their school. So there's some of the things that we mapped out, and there's again a link there for you to go to. But when you go in on the website and you look at the what's new for 23, you'll see a new area. This has been updated on and there's a link to it on the AITSL website, because a lot of states, schools, principals, teachers said over the last 2 years, we really need to improve our professional learning, our professional development cycle. We really need to come back and look at what is the professional development journey in a much more updated way. So this is what you'll see when you go in there. There's a link in the slides. You'll see it right on the front of the AITSL website anyway. And you can unpack all of those areas. So how do I identify the professional development needs I personally need, and how do I help somebody else go through that? And when you click on that, it unpacks all of that and what that looks like. How do you know which thing to pick? As you saw, there was a whole pile of menu choices in the AITSL website. And of course, at our state, our province site, there's even more. So what do I select and undertake in my learning so I move forward in my development? And you'll see there's a place where you can click on that. And then how do I do it, apply it, and how do I refine my learning? And how do I keep on working in that particular area? And I'm going to talk to you about that design piece in a moment. And how do I keep on evaluating where I got to so that I can identify my next professional development need? So all of that is quite a constructive cycle that you can access and go in and look at, because our schools and our teachers ask for it. And we're working on a similar, slightly different methodology with Indonesian ministry at the moment. And they've got, in the government schools, they've got 440,000 schools that they're trying to work through this with. So what does that look like as a professional development practice? So you can see that was the illustration of practice I just showed you in the life side of the AITSL standards. Well, let's just say this was something I needed to improve in, and my supervisor had sat down with me and sort of said, look, let's look at feedback. You're doing all these things well, and you need to actually start to do a stretch goal around this, or it's something you may not have done. So this is just one template. This is from South Australia. They've got a formal sheet to work through online. As you can see, the professional teacher standards are there. So every time a teacher in Australia considers looking to doing professional development, it must be tied to the professional standards and show their growth and improvement. That's the important bit for all of our schools. So I've worked through that. I've opened up my development plan. I'm now looking at which standards I'm working on. And in this particular case, I'm looking at standard 3.1 and 3.3 and 5.1. So I'm really looking at how I write my lessons with clear learning intentions. I'm really coming back and looking at what my explicit teaching strategies are. And I'm looking to see how I can help students to self-assess in the classroom by doing this lesson. If this is live, I write down how I think I'll achieve this goal. And that's what I go through with my supervisor. When we come and look at this, these ellipses can be, I can say where I think I'm at, maybe needs attention, I'm on track. I can plot that in my learning growth. I can also talk to my supervisor about my career, which is always part of the discussion. If you remember back here, career progression is an important part of our learning narrative. So that's important to be always front and centre in the discussions we have. So this is what I want to do. I've just clearly come out of university. If I'm saying I'm wanting to complete my early career development program so I can get proficient status. And I'm also looking at where I want to be in 2 to 5 years' time. And then we work that out in terms of my behaviours, mindsets that need to be a focus of my learning, my learning plan, what that means for my well-being as a professional. My learning partner, my supervisor, must have a responsibility in that. And then we come up with the agreement, what training and development I can commit to, particularly if the school's going to pay for it. And all those things that need to be agreed to before I sign off on my plan. And in South Australia, it's reviewed at 6 months, the plan, and it's reviewed at 12 months, the plan. So sort of similar in design to what you were just talking about. So that's just one state example. I've been talking about teachers here. So just to give you an example of what a principal, a school leader one might look like. This is an example in Victoria, which is another state, and it's a school leader who's aspiring to become a principal. So they've got quite a formal aspirant program there that I work on, professional development program for those aspiring to be a principal. They work through their self-assessments against the principal standard. So they're talking about how they're going against the principal standard, the 5 practices. They are then applying to actually apply to do that, to go through the aspirant program. They do a 360 feedback as part of that against the principal standard. They start to build a portfolio. There is a point in the process where their people would say, their team would say, you're too early, not approved at this state, and give feedback to come back. Or if they have been approved, they start this particular journey there and get their report and their professional development plan to start to become a principal. So at a formal level, these things are always tied. And then there's always some sort of consideration of where do we put all this brilliant professional learning, professional development we're doing, whether it's into a learner profile, whether it's into some sort of digital portfolio that the teacher keeps. So what things that we do for children, we forget to do for adults. So where are we curating all these worked examples we've completed? But in terms of learning design, I wanted to come back to that. So when we talked about the professional charter, it talked about making it relevant, making it collaborative, and making sure it's future focused always. So again, in Victoria, they've come up with some design principles so that anybody who provides professional learning for any teacher or school principal in that state must show in the design multiple opportunities for learning, that it's responsive to the learner's needs, the teachers that are doing the task, or the principals or leaders, that they solve an authentic problem. So very big in Australia, and it's something that's of interest to Indonesia, but they haven't done it before, is any professional learning should help you solve an authentic teaching or leadership problem you were having in the school, and applying the professional learning to actually mature your understanding of how to achieve that problem, solve that problem in the school. And there should be ongoing evaluation and impact of the professional learning. So if there's a program that rolls out every year and it's making no difference to teacher development, when is it ever evaluated to be updated or retired? And then you'll see in this tier underneath what we mean by each of those professional opportunities to learn. And they're just there for you to unpack. So that's the recipe that our state of Victoria has asked for in any professional learning design. But always there is consideration to how we do learning. So this was a big one during COVID, that there was assumption because there was computers in every school and teachers were supposed to be using computers in their teaching and learning design, that they knew how to facilitate lessons online. Well, they didn't. And so same in Canada, same in a number of countries, they actually had to come back and teach teachers how to do collaboration online, how to do discussion online, feedback and reflection, guided learning, all those sorts of skills that you should be able to do in the classroom, small groups, and online. But what our teachers and leaders didn't understand was it has to look different. It's differentiated online. So again, I've popped the link to that in your slide deck. So you can go and look at what we needed to do with our teachers. Indonesia was a bit away ahead of us on that because we didn't have to lock down for as long as Indonesia did, and had to think about that before that. But we did do some collaboration around this. And then there was always the thinking about how we provide professional learning, that it just can't be dependent on one way of doing it. So this design is always in every professional standard that a school is doing, that they should be able to access all these modes, and that it can be rehearsed in multiple ways at a school level, in school-based professional learning communities, in provinces. Dinas is what we call them in Indonesia. So they're thinking about how to do this as cluster professional development. When you've got the one source of truth, that being the AITSL standards and the AITSL website, and how ministry can support that source of truth and roll out more activities, just like you'll see on the AITSL website for 2023. So as we come to the end of this, and I'm happy to take as many questions, it's really getting back to and thinking differently about how we cultivate that really strong professional development environment in the classroom, in our school, in our provinces, regions and states, and at a national level. And what that can look like is a differential learning experience for teachers and school leaders. So it's enjoyable, interesting, future focused, but it solves the problem of practice that they're working on. So really happy to work through any questions, to go back and show and unpack something, Hina, that may have been a big question mark for many people, and to spend as long as people want.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for being so nifty, for being so on the dot, and for being so clear. Such a broad spectrum you have shown to us today. It's a big picture which we are going through. And I could not find so many questions, but yes, there's a lot of good feedback here in the chat room. People are really appreciative and grateful for the session you have conducted. One very important question I have found from the chat room, that is, how can we access this software and the plans of professional development?
Okay, so if I go back into, are we talking about the AITSL website, for example?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I go to the AITSL website, you should be able to get into it. So aitsl.edu.au. People are there, and I'll pop it straight into chat for you now. And of course, it will be in the slides. So I'm just going to pop that in there, and then people can have a look. That professional development cycle actually is here on the front page. I believe, I think it is. I was just there before. Oh, there we are. Let's go. So you can see they're asking at the moment for what do they want next year. That's happening there. But this is what they curated at the end of 2022 to answer those questions. Now, if you come down here, here is that cycle I just showed you. And if I open that up, it takes me to all of these areas and what it looks like. And it gives you things that you can do at each of those. But if I go down further, it breaks it down even further. So here you'll see some, just open that up for you, some professional learning templates, some reflective templates that you can access. And if you go down further here, it talks more about how to work through the learning cycle, and reminds people of things right back in that triangle I showed you and where they are, and I've provided the links for you. But these are sorts of some of the things we're now in this lighter green circle, is that we needed to consider all along in our professional learning. Because as soon as people think they're on a professional learning plan, which they have supposed to have been legally in Australia since 2011, if not before, people think it's snoopervision instead of supervision and support. So really in schools and in our systems, establishing high levels of trust so that we can have honest conversations about if a teacher says to me, oh, I can do all of that, I'm not worried about doing any professional learning, that we can have that trusted conversation and bring them back and say, well, I'd like to see more of that because the children you have in your classroom this year are very different to last year. So it's about, and also what is happening in a lot of our classrooms in Australia yet, not in Indonesia because they see it as a lack of respect. But we've been working on this for a while where we have planned teacher visits to other classrooms and we give each other feedback in a constructed protocol. So really starting to work through that green thing about providing strong vision and all those sorts of things. That's all unpacked there for you. And then if you even go down there further, there's lots and lots of references. What are high quality professional learning practices? What do they look like in the school? So there's some literature there for you to go through.
Ma'am, can you please unmute yourself?
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. No, again, it's mute button is pressed perhaps. Can you please unmute yourself? Yeah, it's all right now.
Okay. All right, let's see how we go. So it's really lots of literature there. Please watch the dates on it though, because some of it's been there for a while and you want currency and there will be other links around there as well. Lots of videos that have actually demonstrated what this looks like in practice around professional learning for you to look at. And they've picked different schools there, Catholic government schools, high schools, remote schools, and what does an evidence base look like in these areas? So there's lots of things for you that you can go back and have a look at there. And then if you even go down further, you can see, look, there's some toolkits you can access, professional learning guides, more about feedback. And there's a whole Facebook site that's been facilitated that I hope you can access where teachers are supporting each other about practice, and there are some great teaching models there. And hopefully you can see the green across the top. So you can break it down. So if you're a teacher, a pre-service teacher, what's applicable to early childhood teachers, beginning teachers, and current and aspiring teachers. So that's all there on the website. And if you want to go even further, you can go more into the standards. If you're becoming a teacher, what that means. Lots more in there about teachers improving their practice, where to start, what to do, what support there is for school principals and becoming a leader. And there's a lot there for initial teacher education programs.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Very clearly answered. The last question, it is, are these the universal standards?
Sorry?
The standards which are being shared on HCL website, are these the universal standards?
These are our national standards. Like you've got the 10 professional standards. We've got 7. And when you go into that part of the website, you see those standards. I'll just go back into the website and bring them up for you. So just clicking on teacher standards, there are 7 standards there across the top, and you can drill down into them then, and you can open up different pieces to get information about illustrations of practice and examples there. So they're all there. And what is most interesting, and why I picked the assessment one, there is some wonderful mapping to your 10 standards. So subject matter knowledge is the same as know your content, which is our 2nd standard. The second one about human growth and development is our standard 6 or 7. So you can see that the instructional planning strategies is our standard 3, 4, and 5, and assessment is 5. So there is lovely alignment, and there's probably some brilliant collaboration between teachers and schools in Australia and Pakistan teachers and schools around this. And there were a similar approach in Indonesia, because they looked at our Australian standards as they built their 13 standards. So there is a lot of alignment in what we do. And I think there's some great examples in your own work that we can learn from.
Thank you very much, ma'am. All the questions are very well answered, and the session was really very productive and very fruitful for all of us. Thank you very much for sharing the resource. May God bless you.
My pleasure, and it was wonderful to be with everyone. I hope it's been of some support. Any questions, I'm really happy to respond to either by my email or in LinkedIn. And once again, Hina, just an absolute pleasure to work with you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Praise from you is my prize, actually. Thank you very much. I'll collate the questions in case if I receive after the workshop, and then I'll be sharing those with you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I can see there's a lot of hue and cry in the chat room for the attendance link. So hold on, wait for a while. I'm definitely going to share the attendance link. Just the closing ceremony, a few more details. I'll be announcing our team. You have been receiving this service throughout the week, so you should know who had been doing it all at the back. Behind the screen, who were the people? Let me share that with you. So ladies and gentlemen, please be in the appreciation of PPDCI team. You know me, I am the founder director of PPDCIC. So Ghulam Ali Buriro is the honorary advisor on education and policy. Mr. Bilal Khan is the general manager. Mr. Bilal, how do you respond to this complete boot camp? How do you feel? Are you feel transformed?
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, every one of you from wherever you are belong to. And it's really an honor for me to be a part of this boot camp. This is the second time I have an experience of the first boot camp as well. And I have seen like growing this since the very first day. I remember the time when you laid down for this PPDCI. And today it's really an immense pleasure for me to see it growing further internationally, nationally. So it's really a very great moment for me. And thank you so much for giving me this chance to be a part of this great platform. And I'm very happy that, Alhamdulillah, we have found such a great attendees. To see them, it's a booster. To see them participating, it's really an honor. It just boosts up towards work well and to see it growing more. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Thank you for your efforts, Mr. Bilal. Then we have Mr. Bilal Khan is the GM of PPDCIC. Then we have Yazdan with us, and Yazdan is the IT manager. So Mr. Yazdan, can you please feel like saying something to the audience?
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am, and assalamu alaikum to everyone. Obviously, it's an honor to be the part of such an organization. Like it was firstly, it is nationally, it was PPDC, and then it become PPDCI, and it becomes international. So it's an honor to be to handle such an organization which is online. I used to handle such offline things as well, but now handling online thing is quite improved, and I have improved my skills as well handling this organization.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your efforts. Much appreciated. Then we have Ms. Rima with us. She is the manager of operations. Ms. Rima, say hello to the participants and share something with them. Ms. Rima, are you there? Perhaps she isn't with us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a great experience. Yes, it's a great experience to be here with the PPDC. And thank you so much. We have improved a lot, like my communication skill, my learning skills, and all for you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rima. We keep delivering and we keep becoming our better version.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you very much.
Inshallah, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the new member to PPDCI team. She is Ms. Hira Asif. Ms. Hira Asif is recently awarded this designation of Manager Admin. Let's welcome her on board. Ms. Hira, do you feel like saying something to the participants, to PPDCI trainees? If Ms. Hira Asif is with us, I would request her to please unmute herself and talk to the participants. Ms. Hira, participants are allowed to unmute themselves, so you can go ahead with it. Is she with us, Hira Asif?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
unable to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Hira Asif, currently working as an assistant vice principal at Foundation Public School. I feel immensely grateful to be a part of PPDCI, and I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Ms. Hina Kufil for giving me this opportunity to learn and grow under the guidance of yours. Working with you and other trainers will undoubtedly help me enhance my skill and abilities. Thank you so much. I look forward to collaborating with each one of you to identify areas of growth and development within our team. I believe that together we can create a meaningful and impactful programs that help support as an individual and collective goals. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hira. It's really a pleasure to have you with us on board. So, ladies and
Thank you so
gentlemen,
much.
this is one announcement. Second important announcement is we are going to have these 3 courses for the summer vacations. First one is personal mastery and self-grooming. Second is English language proficiency course. Let me tell you, if you want to see yourselves as reformed, improved versions of your own selves, opt for these 2 courses and then good to go. You will be able to rock the stage. Then there's one more certification specifically for the teachers, from good to great teacher, a journey of transformation. We are going to have orientation of these 3 courses right away tomorrow, Monday evening, 9 p.m. as per Pakistan Standard Time. The means are virtual. In case if you have interest, we'll be forwarding the orientation link to you people. And it would be rather generally shared. In case if you are interested, you can join the orientation and then we will definitely be exploring the further ways to it. This is the high time to let you know that the course material, complete bootcamp material, the slides, the reading material, the PDF books will be shared with all of you within no time but 7 days. So it will take us 7 days to compile the complete content of PPDCI second bootcamp, and you will be receiving all the content from the slides to the reading material, articles, post-reading, and the books. So wait for 7 days. After that, within 10 days, we'll announce the certifications. Now there are few categories of the certificates. First is certificate of participation, which is going to be awarded to each and every participant. Then they come certificate of appreciation, which is something special for very active participants of the entire boot camp who attended all 14 sessions and who had been very active participants throughout the boot camp. And then there comes a very special certificate of honor, which will be presented to our very esteemed, worthy presenters who joined us from around the globe. We'll be going live this time on our YouTube channel while we'll be rewarding the certificates. So it's not going to be something, a silent distribution. This time it's with a big bang, and we'll be having a proper certificate distribution ceremony on our YouTube channel. I would like you all to stay connected with us. Durations, I have told you people. Now something which is very, very important, that's the group photograph. We have been working very hard. Meanwhile, I'll ask my PPDCI team to share attendance link here in the chat room. And I would like you all to touch up your appearances and turn on your cameras in case you feel comfortable with this, so that we may have the last group photos. This is a memorable event for me and for all of you, culminating the boot camp with this such strong participation from around the globe, and having Ma'am Jenny with us is a pleasure. And this was my desire and my preference to have Ma'am Jenny with us on the last day in the closing ceremony. And I'm so grateful that you are still here, ma'am. So turning on the cameras, attendance link is shared. You can go through that. Take a moment, turn on the cameras so that we may have a group photograph.
Excuse me, ma'am, kindly if you
Yeah.
Ma'am, kindly if you announce that whatever the concerns and queries the people are having in the chat books regarding the upcoming courses, so they may further contact to us in different of social mediums we have.
I am posting PPDCI official contact number, and it's here in the chat room. It's +92 333 266 7478. This is the official contact number of PPDCI. If you have any queries, you can drop your questions over here. Other than that, our official email I'm sharing here. And you can post your queries to this email ID as well. All right, good to go. Let me click the photographs. We have around some 4 screens, so I'll be covering each screen in a while, and I would ask my team to activate themselves for this very important photograph. All right, ready everyone?
It's really a wow moment with a victory's time.
I have captured screen 1. I'm moving to screen 2 now. It's a little tedious and time taking, but let's make it together. Ready, everyone? Perfect. Screen 2 and 3 are also captured. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here at our platform. Having you with us is not less than a proud privilege. And, making this world a better place by coming together, joining the hands, serving the same goal, and motive is something which makes this world a better place. So let's pray from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever the learning we have taken from this boot camp, we become able to deliver that further back to the society and community. If you have any questions, you can post here in the chat room, leave a goodbye note for us, and you can leave the meeting. I'm not ending it because I'll be saving the chat, which is very, very special to me. And once again, thank you very much, ma'am Jenny. This is what I love about you, that you join from very first moment on your relevant day, and you stay with us till the end. So thank you so very much for mentoring all of us.
My pleasure. Lovely to see everyone.
Thank you. So goodbye, everyone. Take care. May God bless you.
Bye.
Keep delivering. All right, everyone. I'm ending the meeting. Goodbye. Once again, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you all secure under his blessings. Goodbye for this time.